There's a story told among old warriors. A young soldier once asked his commander, "How do I become unbreakable?" The old man didn't answer. He handed him a bucket of cold water and said, "Stand in it until your fear of it dies before your body does." That's where real strength begins. Not in comfort, not in motivation, but in your ability to face discomfort without flinching. Most men today don't lack ambition, they lack mental discipline. We chase success, but crumble under pressure. We talk of power, but react emotionally to every challenge. You're not weak because life is hard. You're weak because you keep avoiding what would make you strong. But the Stoics believed, you become powerful the moment you stop avoiding pain and start training with it. In this video, you'll learn how to train your mind like a warrior, master your reactions, and build the kind of mental toughness that doesn't need to shout. It simply endures. You'll discover daily Stoic habits to sharpen emotional control, silence excuses, and create a mindset that doesn't just survive, it dominates. If you've ever felt soft, easily triggered, or lost your edge, you're not alone. But it ends today. Not with a speech, with a system. So stay with me, because the path to becoming mentally unshakable starts here. And the man who finishes this video won't be the same as the one who started it. Like, subscribe, and let's begin. 1. Train in discomfort, not in comfort zones. You don't sharpen a blade by polishing it. You sharpen it by grinding it against stone. The same is true for your mind. Yet most men today live as if discomfort is a disease, something to avoid at all costs. They've been sold the lie that comfort is the reward of success, when in truth, it's the root of weakness. You're not failing because you're incapable. You're failing because you've built a life that never challenges your edges. No cold, no confrontation, no silence, no pressure. Just artificial peace. Fake calm, numbed comfort. But nothing grows in padded rooms. Mental toughness isn't born in the gym. It doesn't appear in books or motivational speeches. It's earned in the places you hate most. Awkward silence, brutal truth, the sting of rejection, the chaos of uncertainty. The Stoics didn't sit in ivory towers. They threw themselves into cold, hunger, and exhaustion because they understood the mind can only grow by being challenged. Epictetus lived as a slave. Cato walked barefoot in public to train his indifference to judgment. These men didn't avoid hardship, they hunted it, because they knew every inch of comfort makes you softer. What weakens modern men is not emotion, it's avoidance. You avoid the cold shower, so your body loses its edge. You avoid hard conversations, so your relationships rot. You avoid solitude, so your thoughts stay noisy and weak. Every time you run from discomfort, you train your mind to break under pressure. You may not see it now, but when life hits, when she leaves, when the job's gone, when you're alone at 2 a.m., you'll crumble because you never practiced standing inside the fire. The Stoic doesn't wait for life to test him. He builds the test himself. He doesn't need a crisis to force growth. He grows daily by choosing friction, not because he loves pain, but because he respects strength. So here's your mirror. What do you avoid? Is it silence, confrontation, hunger, rejection? That's your battlefield. Don't overthink it. Pick one thing you fear. Enter it without hesitation. Do it daily. No comfort, no delay, no applause. Just you and the storm. Because the man who chooses discomfort on purpose becomes the man who cannot be broken by accident. 2. Master the mundane to conquer the extreme. A man doesn't lose the battle when the gun is drawn. He loses it in the moments he thinks no one's watching. When the alarm goes off and he hits snooze. When he eats what he said he'd stop eating. When he lets his anger control the wheel in traffic. Weakness isn't built in one grand failure. It's built in 100 daily concessions to comfort. And that's the problem. Most men wait for some dramatic crisis to start training their minds. But by then, it's too late. You don't build your armor in the middle of the war. You build it in the quiet, repetitive, overlooked moments of your day. Discipline doesn't start in the spotlight. It starts with how you enter a room. How do you breathe when someone interrupts you? How do you carry yourself when no one claps? The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire in chaos, but still wrote meditations each night with methodical consistency. Not for praise, not for others, for himself. Because he knew how you handled the routine, that's how you'll respond to the storm. You don't gain mastery by reacting well under pressure. You gain it by training under silence, under boredom, under stillness. Most men treat the ordinary as something to get through. They rush the breakfast, mindlessly scroll, argue over petty things, and cut corners on things that feel small. But a Stoic sees these as drills. You sharpen your patience in traffic. You train emotional control in a conversation that annoys you. You build mental strength in a 10-minute stretch of solitude with no phone. Every action is practice. Every reaction is a mirror. You don't need to wait for a battlefield. You're already on one. If you're still asking why you collapse under stress, start with how you treat the mundane. Are you sloppy in your habits? Impulsive in small choices? That's where your edge is bleeding out. Discipline isn't something you switch on, it's something you carry like a second skin. So stop waiting for intensity. Start mastering repetition. Start doing ordinary things with extraordinary focus. Clean the kitchen with precision. Sit in silence with intent. Show up 5 minutes early, like it matters. Because if you can dominate the ordinary, the extraordinary won't break you. It'll reveal you. 3. Make your life your dojo. A man doesn't rise to greatness in the ring. He rises in every hour before it. In traffic, in silence, in the way he enters a room or holds his temper when disrespected. That's the real training ground. Most men think discipline happens in isolated rituals, morning workouts, cold showers, weekend meditation. Then they step into real life and unravel. One sarcastic remark and they lose composure. One delay and they spiral. One temptation and the mind caves. Why? Because they never understood the truth. Your life is your dojo. Every moment trains you, whether you know it or not. The modern mind separates practice from reality. You journal at 6 a.m. but explode in meetings at noon. You breathe calmly in meditation but panic when she doesn't text back. You say you follow Stoic principles but fall apart in traffic. That's not discipline. That's cosplay. The Stoics didn't preach calm. They lived it, especially when chaos erupted. Seneca warned that theory means nothing until you bleed in the real fight. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to feel wise. He wrote because he had no choice. The throne was at war. Every day was a confrontation, yet he stayed composed, not because he read about virtue, but because he treated each act of life as a drill in control. So the shift begins now. You stop waiting for the perfect place or perfect time to train. You use the annoying coworker to sharpen emotional discipline. You use your own anger to master stillness. You use boredom as an edge to sharpen patience. There's no wasted moment. Every traffic jam, every difficult person, every long line, every waiting room, it's a test. If you pass it, your armor thickens. If you fail and react emotionally, you hand over power. It's that simple. Most men lose not because they lack strength, but because they never practiced holding the line in daily life. They think battles look dramatic. Often they look like restraint, like saying less, like breathing slower, like walking away. The Stoic warrior doesn't carry his code only in crisis. He lives it quietly, constantly, because when the storm comes, and it will, he doesn't need to act strong. He's been training the whole time when no one was watching. And now, nothing can shake him. That's how you turn your life into a weapon. That's how you turn discomfort into mastery. And that's how you earn the right to call yourself unshakable. 4. Break yourself before life does. As a sword forged in lukewarm fire bends at the first strike, so does a man who only trains when it's easy. Pain is not the enemy. Comfort is. What you call self-preservation is often disguised weakness. Most men avoid what breaks them. The Stoic does the opposite. He steps into it, cold, silence, judgment, rejection, on purpose, because he knows one day life will strike without warning. And if you haven't shattered your ego before that moment, it will shatter you. Modern masculinity has grown soft, padded by convenience. Men say they want strength, yet choose ease at every decision point. They avoid discomfort not because they're cowards, but because they've never been taught how to suffer on their own terms. They break too late, when it's public, when it's permanent, when it's beyond repair. That's not Stoic. That's reactive. Real warriors pre-break. They fracture pride, expectation, and fear daily, not through grand acts, but through small, silent wars against the self. Musashi practiced calligraphy with the same intensity as swordsmanship. Why? Because one shaky brushstroke reveals the same lack of control as a failed parry in battle. Precision anywhere becomes precision everywhere. Cato wore rough clothes and walked barefoot in the streets, not for approval, but to harden himself against judgment before it could wound him. He chose humiliation early so no insult could land later. This is what mental resilience looks like. Not yelling louder, but building so much internal force that the world can't penetrate you. You don't wait to be tested. You test yourself. You do what scares you first. You walk into the cold, not because it's noble, but because it teaches you control. You initiate the tough conversation, not to dominate, but to stop shrinking. You let go of certainty, not to suffer, but to gain an edge. When you willingly fracture the soft parts of yourself, what remains is pure structure, steel, not ego. The man who voluntarily breaks himself no longer fears being broken. He's already stood in front of the fire, stripped of pride, stripped of comfort, and chose to stay. That's not pain-seeking, that's power-building. So the question is simple: where are you still hiding? And how long will you wait before the world tears off what you refuse to confront yourself? Better to break it now, while it's still yours to rebuild. 5. Make and keep a promise to yourself. A man is only as strong as the promises he keeps when no one is watching. Not to others, to himself. That's the battlefield most men never walk into. They speak of greatness, but their word means nothing when the pressure hits. They start, but don't finish. They commit, but only when it feels good. They set rules, then break them quietly in the dark, telling themselves it doesn't matter, but it always does. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you lose a piece of your inner authority. And the man who doesn't trust himself will never earn trust from the world. Discipline isn't built by motivation, it's built by vows kept in silence. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Cleanthes hauled water by night and studied philosophy by day. Not because anyone asked him to, but because he had made a quiet contract with his own potential. There was no applause, no cheerleaders, just him and the fire inside. He didn't have to prove anything to anyone, except to the man he met in the mirror each morning. This is where most men collapse. They want mental strength, but treat their word like a loose thread, easy to cut when comfort comes knocking. They say they'll wake early, but they don't. They say they'll train, but they scroll instead. They say they'll speak up, then swallow silence. That's not forgetfulness. That's weakness dressed as logic, and deep down they know it. Every broken word is a crack in the foundation. Over time, the cracks become collapsed. A Stoic man builds himself from the inside out. He doesn't wait for someone to hold him accountable. He is his own standard. His promises are not suggestions, they are laws. You can start with one. Pick a vow, small but non-negotiable. No matter how you feel, no matter the weather, no matter the noise, keep it every single day. Track it, protect it. Don't adjust the promise, adjust your discipline. Because the moment you keep a promise to yourself long enough, you no longer need external validation. You become the source of your own strength. The world respects a man who keeps his word. But more importantly, you begin to respect yourself. And self-respect is the root of all true confidence. It doesn't come from praise. It comes from proof. Repeated, silent, undeniable proof. You don't need to believe in yourself. You need to become someone worth believing in. Start with one promise and never break it. Every man wants to be unshakable, but few are willing to train for it in silence, in boredom, in discomfort. What we've explored here today is not just a philosophy, it's a path, a way of sharpening your inner blade day after day without waiting for life to force your hand. You've learned that mental toughness is not born from motivation, but from friction. From the cold, the quiet, the unseen decisions that shape who you really are. You now understand that your strength isn't proven in public, but in how you move through the mundane. How you face what you fear, how you keep your word when no one is watching, and how you turn daily struggle into fuel. The Stoics weren't chasing comfort, they were training for chaos. Because they knew storms don't warn you before they come. So you prepare now. You build discipline when life is still quiet. Start small, train in discomfort, turn daily routines into rituals. Face what you avoid, and above all, make a promise to yourself and protect it like your honor. That's where real self-respect begins. And when you respect yourself, the world follows. This isn't a one-time challenge. It's a lifelong decision to rise each day and become mentally tougher than you were yesterday. You won't get it right every time. But that's not the point. The point is to show up anyway, to commit, to grow, and to keep going, especially when it's hard. So now it's your turn. Share your journey in the comments. What are you training in? What discomfort are you choosing today? Speak your promise out loud, not for applause, but for clarity. Because once you name your path, you begin to walk it. And that's how you become the man no storm can move.